Well, this is This Week from City Hall, and I am Alderman Bob Brinson from Ward 6, will be hosting today. And with me I have Mr. Bob Ainsley from Sons of the American Revolution, and I have Susan Lucas from Daughters of the American Revolution, and today we're going to talk a little bit about New Bern Resolves.
Right.
And so give me a kind of an introduction to what is the New Bern Resolves.
Well, let me start off by just saying a little bit about the SAR,
Sure.
the Sons of the American Revolution. We are a patriotic organization, obviously. You know, I wouldn't dress up like this for nothing, right? But our goals are centered around patriotism, education, and history as it relates to the American Revolutionary and colonial period. One of the things that we do on the history side of the house here in New Bern is to celebrate the New Bern Resolves. And I'll talk a little bit about that, but Susan, do you want to say a little thing about the DAR and
Sure.
the Richard Dobbs Spaight Chapter?
Our chapter is 100 years old. We have 180 members. We're united in our belief in patriotism, education, and historic preservation. So we do projects with veterans and active duty servicemen. So for example, we provided supplies for the children of active duty people at Cherry Point for their summer camp. But we're more than that. We provided more than 5,000 hours of volunteer service to New Bern last year by participating in Operation Clean Sweep, volunteering at RCS, volunteering at Mercy Clinic, and Craven Literacy Program.
So, well, thank you.
Excellent stuff, yeah. Yeah, and you know, what she said is what we do also. They've been around a little bit longer than we have, and we're growing. They've grown quite big. But we do a lot of stuff together.
More and more.
Here, yeah, and finding it more pleasurable each time we do it. One of the things I was mentioning was the New Bern Resolves that happened 249 years ago this month. And what it was in a nutshell, a response to Parliament and the King of England with regard to the taxes and the lack of representation on those kinds of things with regard to the livelihood and community. At the close of and what really prompted that was that at the close of the French and Indian War, Great Britain was in great debt. Okay, significant debt. Now they had acquired quite a bit of land, more land than what they had before, and they had to have more soldiers to kind of oversee that land, and that cost money to do that. So that the taxes were laid upon the British Americans at that time. One of the big things that promulgated the New Bern Resolves was the closing of the Boston port. And what generated that was in response to the famous Boston Tea Party. And the Boston Port Act said basically, you folks are going to pay us back, and we're going to, and until you do pay us back for the tea and the taxes on that, we're going to close the port. And that put the folks in Boston at significant hardship. So across the provinces, there was a call for alarm because, you know, basically folks said if they can close the port of Boston, they can close any other port and shut down the cities throughout the provinces. And so we've got to take some action on that. So here in the province of North Carolina, there was a call to elect individuals to represent various geographical areas within the state, within the province at the time. And so it was the first time in the provinces that elected individuals beyond the scope of the royal government came together as a group to represent themselves. And that happened here in New Bern, 25 to 27 August 1774, so 249 years ago. Right. The significance, and I'll cut that short, the significance behind the New Bern Resolves is that what came out of that was a series of resolves for economic sanctions against the Crown. And, you know, let's put them at the pocketbook kind of a thing. Just as an example, one of the things that they hit home about was, until you allow us to start having a say in matters, we're going to put, we're not going to export any tar, pitch, or turpentine. Now, the significance behind that is that's what keeps wood ships afloat. Okay, and so those are the things that they kind of went after. So out of the New Bern Resolves was a non-importation, non-exportation, and a non-consumption resolutions that they then elected William Hooper, Joseph Hughes, and Richard Caswell to go to the First Continental Congress in Carpenter's Hall in Philadelphia the following month. In a nutshell, what came out of that was what was referred to as the Continental Association. It's often also referred to as the Articles of Association or just simply the Association. And that was built upon the premise that we'll hit you in the pocketbook, okay, until you let us have our say in matters here. And it's kind of interesting. I've compared both documents, the one that resides up at the North Carolina Archives and the one that resides up at the National Archives. And aside from a few words here and there, the documents look almost just alike. Okay. I think the significance there was from some correspondence from John Adams that said that Caswell really did do a good job in positioning the outcome of that event. So we're going to celebrate that, and we do that every year, and we'll celebrate it this year on the 26th, Saturday the 26th of August, and we'll start at 9:45 in the morning. We'll have a small procession down Middle Street, starting around the Federal Building there, and we'll actually perform the ceremony and observance there at the Colonial Church site of Christ Episcopal Church. We have a number of DAR chapters and SAR chapters throughout the state that also participate with us. The Masons here, St. John's Lodge number 3, participate. There were 16 Masons of the 71 members that attended the Congress. And so they had a significant input, and so the Masons also participate in that. So it'll be a good time. Did I still need thunder from you, or?
No, well done.
Okay, all right. So in a nutshell, I guess that's what we're all about here on the 26th.
Awesome. Actually answered a lot of the questions I had outlined already.
Oh, okay.
But one of the things I understand is North Carolina was actually one of the first, or the first,
Supposed to be first.
to have this provincial Congress.
Yes.
And very interesting. And then a couple of things I read from your article, actually, in the New Bern Historical Society. Richard Caswell, one of the ones they elected to be a delegate to the Congress, was actually our first governor. It turned out to be our first governor. And then Mr. Hughes and Mr. Hooper actually kept going to the Continental Congress and were signers of the Declaration of Independence. Right. So very long-lasting and some legacies there, certainly.
Yeah. If you look at the attendees list, to pair it off of yours, it was almost a who's who within the state of North Carolina. Because a lot of those folks, for example, James Keenan, a Presbyterian minister, from at that time, Duplin County, these counties were very large back in those days. They split up later on. But they went back, and he was one of the originators and signers of the Mecklenburg Resolves. Mm-hmm. So I guess New Bern was the place where they kind of stirred the pot in North Carolina, so to speak. A lot came out of it.
Yeah, very good, very good.
A lot of people don't know that. New Bern's got a lot of history here. Tons of history. We just have to get out there and kick the can a little bit to get folks aware.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to do here.
Exactly.
Is to make folk aware of it and to observe something that was significant.
Well, thank you very much for joining us on this week at City Hall. And come on out to the 26th of August to celebrate the 249th New Bern Resolve.